Good evening, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks College Sports Huddle, right here on the McGrath Podcast Network. Great to have you all with us this evening. We got a lot to talk about, obviously, in the world of college sports. We've got the NCAA tournament. This is championship week in conference tournaments. Certainly exciting times going on there. And Siena, for instance, locally here, under second-year coach Jerry McNamara punched their ticket with a victory over Merrimack. And a lot of other games going on. Watching McNeese State right now take it to Stephen F. Austin, who the number 1 and 2 seeds in the Southern Southland Conference, McNeese State going to be a sleeper in that first round of this tournament. So keep an eye out for some of that. But we'll welcome everybody watching tonight on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. All the groups that allow us to share. You see some of them of our favorites scrolling at the bottom of the screen. John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities. Greg Rawlings from America's Pastime. Flo and Can from Bottom Line Sports. Let's Talk Sports, another great podcast network similar to the McGrath Podcast Network that is one of our main platforms. Great shows. Besides this one, go watch the stuff and you'll see we'll run the promo for the network and you'll see all the great shows. But Let's Talk Sports Network also has some great shows. Ken Krause over at Golf Bud Sports of All Sorts. Quick shout out to Ralph Williams over at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff out of Ocean City, Maryland. Pittsburgh Focus, national footprint. Been on there many times, specifically on the Sports Corner on Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Ralph does that with Smoke and Jim Frazier. So check that stuff out. A lot of good stuff going on there. Good evening, Rick. Good to have you with us. It's championship week, as I said. We'll get into the top 25, the last top 25 of the regular season. We'll look at who's already in the tournament. Already a lot of teams, 16 or maybe more, have punched their ticket already. We'll take a look at that. As I said, McNeese State about to punch their ticket right now. What else was I going to talk about? Bubble teams. Again, we're still Miami of Ohio. I don't want to harp on this. Should be in now, regardless of what they do in their postseason tournament, conference tournament. But we're still looking at some teams that just don't belong in this tournament. Sorry. But we'll do the best we can to kind of look at some of that. I want to talk, and when I talk about Miami, again, I try to bring it up a little bit on the roundtable show we just had, the Unprofessional Professional show. You know, people talk about Miami and who they play. You know, first of all, nobody will play them outside of their conference. They can't schedule non-conference games with anybody from power conferences. And what about other teams? I can think of teams like Wichita State in 2015. They were ranked number 1 in the country going into the tournament, undefeated. They didn't play anybody that year. They played out of the Missouri Valley Conference. I think they might have played one power conference team during the course of the year, and they beat them. They had to lose to Kentucky in the second round of the tournament. Indiana State, you go all the way back to 1979, again out of the Missouri Valley. Didn't play. They played Purdue in their very first game of the year. Didn't play another power conference team the rest of the year. Harder to get in the tournament then. You had to win your conference. So, you know, but these teams are going in ranked 1 and 2, getting first round seeds. This team is ranked, what are they ranked? 19? Where are they? 20. They dropped a spot because they won in overtime. They're ranked 20. These teams were going into the tournament ranked 1 and 2. Wichita State, Indiana State, St. Joe's back in 2003-ish, out of the A-10. Better conference. I get it. But give it a chance. This team's going to be a 9th or 10th seed. They're going to be underseeded. They're going to have to play a better team than they really ought to have to play. But they get past the first day, their first game. They could have some better matchups. This team could win some games. Or they might get beat by 20. I don't know. But give them a chance to play. It's a great story. I root for good stories. The other coaches on the hot seat, but we already had some go down, Rick. Let me give you the rundown of the coaches that got fired already. I can find my 2006 coaching carousel. So here's our tracker right now. Let me go to CBS Sports is usually pretty good with this stuff. So Adrian Auchi gets fired yesterday, as Rick mentioned. 3 years, I think a game or two over 500. Not good enough at Syracuse. They've become basically irrelevant, not only in the ACC, but nationally, and even here in the East. Can't be that way. Bobby Hurley fired at Arizona State. Earl Grant out at Boston College, another ACC. Two more ACC coaches. Damon Stoudemire was fired at Georgia Tech. Kansas State, we know, already fired Jerome Tang a few months ago. That one's still, we got a lawsuit going. Providence in the Big East fired Kim English, replaced Ed Cooley a few years ago. They had tremendous run under Ed Cooley, and they've never got it going under Kim English, despite really good teams. These guys are out. Joe Scott at Air Force. Mike Lewis at Ball State. Dartmouth fires their coach. Stan Heath, who coached at Missouri and I believe Arkansas at one point. Eastern Michigan fires him. FIU fires Jeremy Ballard. Alvin Brooks out at Louisiana. Let's look at some guys that are, hold on, let me just go to the hot seat here. There's some other guys, by the way, that got some bullets on their backs. The Pittsburgh coach, name for whatever reason is escaping me. I usually have this up. I usually have the hot seat up, and then I don't get at it. It's college football. What am I doing here? College basketball. Hot seat. So this is let's look at the hot seat list here. Some of these guys might be gone already. Thad Matta at Butler, another Big East school. He's been there a few years, had great success at Xavier, has not been able to repeat that when he went. Well, he had some good teams at Ohio State, but has not really done much at Butler. Wes Miller at Cincinnati. His time could be up. They make the tournament. They might save his job. Matt McMahon at LSU in big trouble. As I mentioned last week, in the last couple of weeks, Will Wade, who got fired from LSU and is in just his first year at NC State, going to get them back to the tournament after going to the Final Four 2 years ago. He is being mentioned prominently for the LSU job that he got fired from with the FBI chasing him all around campus. You can't make this stuff up, I'm telling you. And McNeese State, who he coached before as he was rehabilitating his career, is not missing a beat with Will Wade gone. They continue to win, and they've gotten into the tournament, beating Stephen F. Austin just now. Penny Hardaway, I've mentioned a couple of times the last month or so, is in big trouble at Memphis. Porter Moser is going to be in trouble at OU. Talk about him coming potentially up to the Big East and being interested in the Boston College and Providence openings. Porter Moser, remember, got Loyola of Chicago to the Final Four here, 7-8 years ago with a great run. Jeff Capel is a guy I'm trying to think of from Pitt. He's definitely in trouble. We talked about Kim English, already gone. Those are the guys that are really Ed Cooley, who left Providence. We talked about Kim English getting fired. He could be in trouble at Georgetown, as he really hasn't got things turned around there either. And they talk about Dana Altman maybe retiring at Oregon after a long run there. So those are some of the guys that could be in trouble as we go ahead. Hello, Ken. How are you, buddy? As I mentioned, check out Ken and Flo on their Bottom Line Sports podcast. Good stuff. Yep. Damon Stoudemire gets fired, former NBA guard. Where'd he go to? Did he go to Arizona or someplace? I think he went to Arizona. Again, Georgia Tech, some schools that, you think back 20 years ago, and some schools that were, year in and year out, at least competitive, to Georgia Techs, the Pittsburghs, the Boston colleges. They just are in a bad place right now. And, you don't get a chance. You don't get a lot of time. Earl Grant got like 3 years at Boston College. Tim English got 3 years at Providence. I think Stoudemire had 3 years at Georgia Tech. We just talked about Earl Grant getting fired. Biggest issue with college basketball is the NIL for teams like Georgia Tech. Yeah, I get it. Listen, there's a lot of talk. We got to do away with the consortiums, right? These teams that. Hello, Paul Spada. How are you? These programs, and you look at Miami of Florida, by the way, who will be in the tournament this year, playing. We'll see how they make out in the Big East, or I'm sorry, the ACC tournament. But they pretty much solidified their way into the big dance. They've got a huge consortium, probably among the biggest in the country. And they raise money for NIL to be used by the schools throughout, all the programs. The Georgia Techs of the world aren't able to compete. And if they do get money, it's going to get earmarked for the football teams. And then you got to have so much for women's sports and because of Title IX and whatnot. That all comes into play. But Ken's absolutely right that the pleasure's all mine, my friend. The Georgia Techs of the world, the BCs of the world have a lot of trouble. Well, BC, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, they also, got screwed over by their football programs by having them move to the ACC in the first place. They lost their identities. These were programs that were always competitive in the 80s, in the 90s. Syracuse was competitive, for 40 some years with Jim Boeheim. They didn't go. And people think it's all Adrian Autry. Well, they didn't go to the tournament the last 2 years of Jim Boeheim's career either. It's a 5-year drought for Syracuse. That's huge. People think, Syracuse, just this little school up in, central New York. This is a nationally prominent program, or was. It's going to be an important hire for Syracuse. They need to do something really, big. They'll probably go get one of these hot coaches, like the guy from South Florida, the coach at St. Louis. The guy that I would love to see them hire, and I'd hate to see him leave here locally, this is Jerry McNamara, former standout starting guard as a freshman on that 2003 championship team. I think it was 2003 with Carmelo. Coached a bit under Coach Boeheim and Adrian Autry, and then went to Siena here, got his first head gig, and in 2 years took this team from 4 wins to the NCAA tournament. The question is going to be whether they want to go back to the Boeheim coaching tree again after the failures of Adrian Autry. Jerry McNamara's done a tremendous job. They're basically playing with 7 guys right now. 5 guys. I believe the 5 starters the other night in the MAC final against Merrimack played all but like 16 minutes of the game. And in the semifinals, he never substituted once in the second half. So that's going to be tough come NCAA tournament time. But don't count this team out. This is a team who's got a little bit of a track record, for a small school in upstate New York. Siena, I'm talking about. They've got 4 NCAA tournament wins, and they could do some danger. You participated in the baseball roundtable with JB. You went great. Sweet. When was that? On YouTube? I got to find it, and maybe we'll share it to the page. What was I going to talk about here? We'll look at some of the guys. Let me look quickly at the last top 25, and we'll get into some of the things that we've been talking about. Duke finishes the year ranked number 1, getting 56 out of 61 first place votes. Arizona, Michigan, top 3. Those number 1 seeds probably should be solid, I would think. Nothing's going to upset them. If they get beat in their conference tournaments, I think they'll still get number one seeds. Duke's got some injury issues, so we'll see whether that affects them or not. But we'll keep an eye on that situation as well. Florida, who's been playing great, 11 straight wins now out of the SEC. They started the year a little bit rocky, but I'm telling you, since January, nobody's been playing better basketball than this team. Played real good defense, defending champions. Potentially, we get our second repeat winner in 3 years after waiting 20 years for the last repeat champion. So could be kind of interesting to see what happens there. Houston, again, kind of an up and down couple of months here, the last couple of months, but still a good basketball team. Has a little trouble putting the ball in the hoop at times, but they're fifth right now, still in play for a number one seed. UConn still in play for a number one seed, would likely need to win the Big East tournament and have one of these teams go out early in their tournament to move up. Iowa State, a great regular season for them. Michigan State lost to Michigan here on Sunday in one of the great rivalries in college basketball. And they were chanting, what were they chanting at the end of that game? Oh, hang on. Tom has a great comment after. Where is it? You're not going to give me it? What were the fans chanting at the end of this game? At Michigan, Dusty May had a great regular season as well, by the way. I can't find it now. Baby brother or something like that. I'm not really sure what the heck they were. I can't remember now. Forgive my 66-year-old mind, but it was kind of cool. But I wasted enough time trying to figure that out. Illinois, great offense. One of the best offenses in the country. Bruce Underwood's done a great job there. They finish at 9, Virginia 10, also playing good basketball right now at the ACC. ACC's really moved up its profile heading towards the tournament here late in the season. Nebraska at number 11 has had some bumps in the road here late in the year. Gonzaga wrapped up the WCC last night, beating Santa Clara, who should get in that large bid, by the way. St. John's, who's up to 13, also one of the hotter teams in the country going into the Big East tournament. If they were to win this tournament, they'd certainly get a 3 or 4 seed. Kansas, who's been up and down like nobody else in the country. They've beaten the best teams in the country, and they've lost to some of the worst teams in the Big 12 this year. This is a team that could put together a 9-loss team that could put together 2 strong weeks and win this. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying they could. Gonzaga's a team to watch out for. Under the radar. Nobody's expecting them to do anything this year. You could see them maybe potentially make a run here. Going to do it with defense and not offense for a change. Texas Tech has slipped recently. They've fallen all the way down to 16. Still a team that could compete in March here, in March Madness. Arkansas is at 17. Purdue at 18. North Carolina, 24-7. We look at this as not being a great year for North Carolina. They've got some good wins, and we'll see what Hubert Davis can do in the ACC tournament and the Big Dance. Miami of Ohio, as I said, finishes their regular season 31-0. We'll check out their conference tournament here before we wrap up today's show. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt, Wisconsin, Louisville, and Tennessee wrap up the top 25. Falling out were Miami of Florida and St. Louis. St. Louis might need to win the A-10 to get in the tournament. We'll see how that goes. Oh, don't do that. Almost ended the stream here. Go Jayhawks again. It's a Heckle and Jekyll. No, it's a Jekyll and Hyde team, right? This team can play great one night and horrible the next, but they're as talented as most anybody in the country. If they can put it together, they can put together 6 good weeks. John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities. You heard me mention him here first. Iowa State's going to have a hard time. They're going to have to win I would think they're going to have to win the Big 12 tournament to get a number 1 seed, John. Michigan's the best team in the country, as you mentioned earlier. Dusty May's done a tremendous job there in his 2 years at Michigan, getting this program. Listen, Juwan Howard had a couple of good years, but the program was not in good shape when Dusty May took over. He's done a great job for sure. Danny Fuller's picking Hofstra to go all the way. There you go. Then you'll get a good one on that. I did put a future bet on Gonzaga plus 4,000. So my remarks there might have a little bit of a lean in the positive for Gonzaga. But Hofstra, you'd probably get a pretty good number on today to win this whole tournament. I'll bet you they'd be about plus 50. Let's see what they are now. Now you got me wondering, John. If I were to bet, I'm not going to do this, by the way. Now I want to know what Hofstra is. Let's check DraftKings. If this doesn't take too long, we might want to look at some of the odds on some of the other teams anyway. So we'll pull this up. I should have logged in here before I got started. Oh, they're going to make me do all this. You know, I love security, but enter the 6-digit. Oh, you sent me. Never mind. I don't have time for this. Look, Jayhawk, listen, Bill Self's a great coach. But sometimes I think he drafts too much talent and not enough leaders, if you will. Okay? You still need teams that can play together cohesively, and you need guys on the court who can be coaches and bring those teams together in the field. And sometimes Kansas has lacked in that area in the last few years, in my mind. So let's look at some of the scores going on right now before we go to any bracketology or anything. I might need that, so let's just keep this over here. And again, we'll try to touch on the women. I apologize we don't do more with the women because, you know, games going on right now in Division I. Out in the Mountain West, Nevada's beating Air Force. Let me stick to some of the bigger conference for now. Indiana in a big game for them. They 9-11 in the Big Ten. They're still on the bubble. Where are they sitting? Let me look at these bubble teams before I go to look at these. This is Joe Lunardi. So he's got Indiana in right now, 9-11. This is what frosts my ass. I'm telling you, excuse my French, but you know, Indiana getting in, and we got to have a debate over St. Louis, and we got to have a debate over Miami of Ohio. And teams like this, come on. First 4 out, Auburn. New Mexico, Stanford, Virginia Tech. The second 4 out, Cincinnati, San Diego State, Oklahoma, Cal. Last 4 in, UCF, SMU, VCU, and Indiana. Telling you. So anyway, Indiana's ahead by 1 at halftime over Northwestern. So it's a big game for Miami. For Indiana. If they lose this game, how are they in? Please tell me. Marquette's beating or tied with Xavier in the Big East. Ole Miss right now has an 8-point lead over Texas early in the first half in the SEC. BYU needs probably a win, at least one win, I think, to wrap up their tournament bid. Is ahead of West Virginia right now, 15-11. But West Virginia and BYU, 2 teams again. BYU had a great start to the season, went in the tank. There's only 9-9 in the Big 12 once their star player got hurt. West Virginia also 9-9 in conference play. I mean, at least if you're at 500, I can give you the benefit of the doubt. Memphis is losing to Tulane. As we mentioned, Penny Hardaway in a little bit of trouble there. Looking at championship week here, we've already got in. Tennessee State is already in. LIU is in. Northern Iowa Panthers are in with a win over UIC. High Point, another team to watch out for come tournament time. 30-4, second time they've been to the tournament. Last year was their first time in. Gave it, a serviceable performance. This is a team to be careful of. They can score a lot of points. Queens University in North Carolina, their first tournament appearance ever out of the Atlantic Sun, the Summit League. By the way, Northern Iowa was a bid stealer there. They were only 20-14 overall for the year. Summit League, North Dakota State wins over North Dakota. Troy wins in the Sun Belt. Troy wins over Georgia Southern. 22-11 is their record. Furman comes out of the Southern Conference with a win over East Tennessee State. Wright State in the Horizon League wins over Detroit Mercy, a close game last night. Coastal Athletic, Hofstra, as John Gonzalez mentioned early, out of Hofstra's on Long Island, correct? They beat Monmouth 75-69. Good year for Hofstra. And their fifth appearance, but their first time since 2001. West Coast Conference, Gonzaga with a I think a convincing win. They were trailing. I watched this game a lot of the first half last night, along with the Siena game, and Gonzaga was getting all they could get from Santa Clara. And I think the WCC is going to get 3 bids this year: St. Mary's and Santa Clara, along with the automatic bid for Gonzaga. It's their 27th straight NCAA appearance. One of the best in the country, maybe the best in the country. By the way, I was mentioning it on the Unprofessional Professional show. Tubi TV has got a great documentary. If you like college basketball and you're interested in stories like Gonzaga's rise to prominence in the last 27 years, check out Tubi. They've got a great documentary about that last 27 years. This was a program that was on the verge of being dropped, basically, Division I basketball, going to Division III. That's what the administration wanted to do. Sorry, I'm trying to turn on something here on never mind. Where else we got? Metro Atlantic, I said. Siena Saints, their first appearance since 2010, but they are 4-6 lifetime in this tournament. They can win a game. I remember this team beating Stanford in the first round when Stanford was really good. This was back in Mike Dean's day, many years ago, but they've won games under Paul Hewitt. They've won games under Fran McCaffrey. We'll see where they can get it done under Jerry McNamara, who, by the way, is going to be mentioned, as I said, very prominently in the coach search for the new coach search for Syracuse, the Syracuse Orangemen. In the Southland, McNeese State just now wrapped up their bid by getting in over Stephen F. Austin. In the Southern, we're only in the quarterfinals, which are going to be played today. The number 1 seed, that was last week. What are you doing here? I hate this. ESPN is the worst, I swear to God. So those are the teams that have punched their tickets already. I'm not even going to look at the rest of this because ESPN has got to be the worst for putting these things together. But we're getting into the heart of, the Big Ten, the Big East, the SEC, the Big 12, as well as the MAC. Let me just see. I want to see. Let's go back to our scoreboard here. What did I do? I get rid of it? I guess I did. I want to look at Miami's setup here. So they're playing in the MACC. Oh, that's the MAC, the other MAC. We got 2 different MAC conferences, so you got to make sure you get the right one. So they're going to get UMass tomorrow. Tomorrow they start with UMass. Toledo play Bowling Green. Akron, who's the number 1 seed, I believe. I'm sorry, the betting favorite, not the number 1 seed in this tournament. They'll get Buffalo, and Ohio will get Kent State. Really rooting for them to get through this whole thing. Let's see what else is going on elsewhere. The ACC, it's really kind of screwy too, because you do have a lot of step ladders. I'm going to look for a better conference tournament page here. But bring your comments out, guys. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about today. What do you got? Happy birthday. Happy birthday to Chris F. Grave. Thanks for reminding me, Rick. The one of the great voices in my time doing this podcast, Rick. The guys in the TGI Sports Talk chat are used to now hearing some of his different voices. We're going to put together some new intros for the shows, and Chris is going to give me his best professional sports announcer's voice and get those intros for my shows and the shows I do with Jack Hirsch. So we'll have some fun with that. If I go to, I can't believe how bad ESPN is at this whole freaking thing. We'll take a look at some of these. We got the automatic bids already in for the teams we talked about. We'll get into some of the other stuff here in a second. But yes, happy birthday, Chris F. Grave. Good to have you contribute so much to all the shows. Chris isn't with us, at least not yet tonight, but he will. We talked about the coaches being fired. I did talk a little bit. Again, I'm going back to Miami again. Again, I can make a case that this Miami team's chances in the NCAA tournament shouldn't be considered that much worse than Wichita State, 2015, St. Joe's back in 2003, all teams that, St. Joe's entered the tournament with a 1 loss, but they were a number 1 seed. Wichita State entered the tournament with no losses. They were a number 1 seed. Indiana State with Larry Bird, so it's a little bit different. It's also 40-some years ago. Geez, almost 50 years ago. Wow. But they played nobody. And I'm not saying those teams are no good. I'm saying we should look at undefeated teams and give them a little bit of credit and give them a chance to play against the big boys, because they aren't giving them a chance to play during the regular season. Before we talk about it, it might go get beat by 20. I don't know. Everyone gets in nowadays. I remember when we had 32 teams. I remember we had 24, John. You probably do too. Think about 1974, when North Carolina State had that great team. They went to the Final Four and beat that great UCLA team, Bill Walton's senior year. You probably remember that. I mean, I'm 15 years old then. But you had to win your conference tournament. I'm sorry, you had to win your conference to get in. That's the only teams that got in. And you had a couple at-larges because you had some independents like Marquette, Notre Dame. They get in the tournament. But if you were in a conference and you didn't win your conference, you weren't getting in. That very year we're talking about, 1974, North Carolina State had a great ACC championship game against Maryland. Lefty Driesell had a great team that year. I think they won 105-103 in overtime. Maryland went to the NIT. And the NIT, good point, John, was actually very big then because they were getting really good teams. Yes, David Thompson led that North Carolina State team. Tom Burleson was the center. Monty Tao was on that team as a point guard. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Monty Tao, right? Norm Sloan was the coach of that team. Tom Burleson, there you go. David Thompson was just out of this world. The guy could jump out of the gym. Great, great player. So you got all great teams then. And you're right, John. But here's the thing. As far as, we got 68 teams that get in now. They want to go to 72, 76, 92, whatever number we want to talk about. First of all, there's enough teams now. And the only reason I can see to expand at all is to give the mid-majors, when somebody like Miami, let's say, loses in their conference tournament, or Stephen F. Austin today had 2 losses going into this game, give them a bid. I don't need to see teams that are 4-12 in their conference. Who needs to see that? I want to see some of these other teams. I know I've been, an itch about this whole freaking thing the last month on this show, and I apologize for just going on and on and on and on. But it's ridiculous that we're talking about Auburn and Oklahoma and West Virginia. And we're not talking about the fact that Akron or Miami, one of them will get in. Well, actually, if Akron wins, Miami probably will get in now. But Akron hasn't had that much worse of a season than Miami. They got 1 loss in conference, 2 losses overall, I believe. But we're talking about Seton Hall at 20-11. We're talking about Auburn at, what are they? Are they 500? I mean, losing Alabama last weekend should have put an end to that conversation about Auburn, but we're still talking about them. They're 16-15, 7-11. If you're going to be 16-15 and get in, you better have won your conference tournament. 7-11 in the conference. Oklahoma 7. They're out now. John's a UCLA guy when it comes to college basketball. And again, we grew up with UCLA, right? I was a Marquette guy when I was a kid. When I first started watching college basketball, 10, 11 years old, Al McGuire had some great teams at Marquette. Finally won in 77. And in that 74 season, actually, they lost to that NC State team in the final. And some say Al kind of turned the whole game around the wrong way with a couple of technical fouls back to back in the second half of that game. But North Carolina State was just much, much better than Marquette that year. But Al did some great stuff. That was a team that I rooted for through the 70s and even into the 80s when Hank Raymond took over for 6 years. At 78, he took over when Al McGuire walked away, famously announcing he was leaving Marquette before the NCAA tournament started. And then that team really went on an unexpected run. They barely got in the tournament, and they went on and won the championship. But they had some great teams before that. They run into Kentucky in the regional final. They'd run into Indiana when Indiana was undefeated and lose really close games. Kansas one year. Rutgers 32-0, 1976, I want to say, right? Yep, 1976, John's got there. Lost to Michigan in the semifinals. They lost their last 2 because I believe they lost to UCLA in the I want to say they lost to UCLA they used to play the third place game at that time, John, as you probably remember. I think it was UCLA they lost to. That's the year Indiana went undefeated. So we had 2 undefeated teams. We don't get, Miami of Ohio is only the third or fourth undefeated team to get to the potentially undefeated team to get to the NCAA tournament in the last 20 or 30 years. 1976, you had 2 undefeated teams reach the Final Four. Indiana won it all, beating that Michigan team that beat Rutgers, and Rutgers went there 32-0. Phil Sellers led that team, if I remember right. Tom Young was a coach. Check me out, John. Walking encyclopedia John Gonzalez will tell me if I'm right or wrong. Good stuff, though. This is an exciting time. If you're a college basketball fan, to me this week, I love this week. I love the NCAA tournament, especially the first weekend. That Thursday through Sunday. To me, that's one of the best weekends in sports. But this weekend, this championship week, to me it still carries more weight and more fun for me than even the tournament, quite frankly. And I love it. Johnny Orr, Michigan, absolutely. And I want to say Johnny Orr did a great job at Michigan, by the way, and went on to Iowa State. John mentioned Iowa State as one of his top 4 teams this year. Johnny Orr had some pretty good teams at Iowa State. Really good coach that people don't talk much about, Johnny Orr. Good stuff. I love nostalgia. I love the nostalgia. So, anyway, right now, Lenardi's number 1 seeds are Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and Florida. No surprise there. They're the top teams in the country. He would have Siena, by the way, as a 16 seed playing Arizona. Probably fair. Let me see where he's got Miami slide at an 8. That's up. Everything before this week, I've seen him have him at a 9 or a 10. So he's got Miami facing off in that 8-9 game against TCU. They can win that. Again, this isn't the bracket. This is Lenardi's bracket, right? He's got him in the South region, Miami. Oh, is that Miami of Ohio? That's the Hurricanes. Hold on. Let me get the right Miami team. I was wondering about that. Yeah, he's got him as 11. So this team could potentially go in there 34-0, and he's got him as an 11 seed. Playing BYU, which may not be a bad matchup. There'd be a lot of points scored in that game. Miami's got a great offense. They play very little defense, so be prepared for some high-scoring games. So he's got him in this is the West region. And they've been staying right on that 11 and 12 line the whole time. It would also set him up for a second-round game against Gonzaga, who plays really good defense, by the way. John always the UNC Charlotte semifinal game. Great game. Came down to a final Butch Lee inbound pass to Jerome Whitehead, somehow getting that ball in the basket. A little bit of controversies. I remember whether it was offensive goaltending, because at that time he still couldn't dunk. But great semifinal game there. And UNLV, I believe, played North Carolina on the other side of that bracket. And then Marquette with that famous win in Al McGuire's last game against UNC. So that was a great game. I remember that like it was yesterday. It was a fun Final Four. Cornbread Maxwell was the big star for that UNC Charlotte team. Lee Rose, I believe, is a coach. I think Lee Rose was the coach of that Charlotte team. They're now just Charlotte. What else? Just looking at some of the seeds here. So he had Stephen F. Austin, which is going to be out now. McNeese is probably going to slide in at that 13 spot instead of them. Again, this is his bracket, don't forget. Santa Clara, he's got his last 4 bye. So the first 4 in, or I'm sorry, the first 4 he's got. Who's he got playing in the first 4? How do I figure this out? Have I still got music going? If you guys have been hearing that the whole time, I apologize. How's that? So anyway, the last 4 in without a bye would be UFC, SMU, VCU, and Indiana, and they would have to play, I guess, the 16 seeds that don't get a bye. So he would have I don't know how to figure out who his first 4 is. Very hard for me to tell who these teams would play, I guess. Trying to figure out who these last 4 teams in, right? So they're going to play 4 automatic qualifiers who are the worst of those 4 of the automatic qualifiers. Siena, quite frankly, could fall into that grouping. Yeah, Jerry McNamara did a great job this year at Siena. Lenardi, as far as multi-bid conferences, 10 in the Big Ten, 10 in the SEC. Is that what we really want? 8 from the ACC, which is, by the way, up. This league got off to a rough start and really has gotten pretty deep. In the SEC with 8, Big 12. I'm sorry, I did this backwards. Big 10, 10, SEC 10, ACC 8, Big 12 8, Big East 3, West Coast 3, and the 8-10. So he's got St. Louis and VCU getting in. Apparently, out of the 8-10, he's had that as a one-bid conference for much of the last couple of months. So 10 teams out of the SEC, 10 teams, 8 teams, out of the Big 12, 10 teams out of the Big 10. I think the Big 10 is the best conference in the country. Again, Michigan, I think right now it's going to depend on who wins their conference tournament. Probably the number 1 overall seed will come from one of those teams. I would say Syracuse. And they're looking to hire a new AD too, and they may have done it actually. If I take a quick look here at hasn't been announced yet, but they're looking at the assistant AD from oh God. I can't remember now. Anyway, they're the new AD. They do have a new AD who's going to hire the new coach. Jerry McNamara probably will he'll be a strong consideration. I know the St. Louis coach has been mentioned prominently. The South Florida coach has been mentioned prominently. The only way, and again, remember, Jerry McNamara has some great moments as a player at SC, better than Adrian Autry ever had. Fine player. Jerry McNamara, remember him making 3-pointers right and left when they won a Big Ten. I'm sorry, a Big East tournament, in his senior year, winning a national championship with Carmelo, starting guard as a freshman, 2003. Yeah, John's with me. Overrated I think the Big Ten's really good. Not overrated at all, right? We look at this conference, 10 bids, and the teams that are going to get in. Jeez, I can't find it. There we go. Michigan, easy. Nebraska, no-brainer. Michigan State, no-brainer. Illinois, no-brainer. Wisconsin, no-brainer. UCLA, to me, a no-brainer. I don't know why we're having they had a lot of conversation about being on the bubble here a couple of weeks ago. Won some big games at home. Having trouble winning on the road. I don't think they've lost in Pauley Pavilion all year. Maybe one loss. 13-7 in conference, 21-10. I don't have a problem with that. Purdue, Ohio State, Iowa. I can go that far. 2, 4, 6, 8, but he's got Indiana in as well. I'm going to say this league deserves 9, not 10. Who's the other one with 10? SEC? Bet you I can make. And again, I'd just rather see a second place team from or somebody who lost in their conference tournament from a mid-major. Get in there. Michigan State, again, Michigan State's had a really good year. They lost to Michigan, a close game the other day. Tom Izzo's a really good coach. He's a really good tournament coach, and this is a team that could slide into that Final Four. Again, so the matchups are going to matter so much, and this is I think, look at Duke's got every team. I can make a case why every team can't win, right? And I think you can make an argument for, obviously, Duke, Arizona, Michigan, Florida, Houston. You can make an argument for UConn. And just making the Final Four. Just forget about winning it all. UConn. Iowa State, Michigan State, we just talked about. Illinois, Virginia, Nebraska, Gonzaga, St. John's, Kansas, Alabama, Texas Tech, Arkansas, Purdue, North Carolina. Miami of Ohio, maybe a reach. So maybe 19 teams. You could make an argument it could reach the Final Four, all depending on matchups and whatnot. And now some of those teams are going to go out in the first round. You don't agree with me on Indiana, or you don't agree with Indiana getting in, John? I don't think they belong in. Right? I mean, the other conference, as I said, with 10 teams is Southeast. Florida, yes. Alabama, yes. Arkansas, absolutely. Vanderbilt, absolutely. Tennessee, absolutely. Texas A&M, sure. Georgia, okay. Missouri, okay. Kentucky, you're starting to push me a little bit. Texas, okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That would be it. But we've had to have conversations for the last week about Oklahoma and Auburn would have been 11 and 12 teams, or 11 or 12 teams out of the Southeast. No, I agree with you 100%. It's too hard. Anything's a crapshoot right now. To me, I can't pick a Final Four till I go through and pick every single game. You're absolutely right. Don't agree with Indiana getting in. Fair. I think I'm in the same place with Texas in the Southeast Conference, quite frankly. What do you say? He had 8 out of the Big 12. We'll talk about the Big East in a second. The Big 12, Arizona, Houston, Kansas, Texas Tech, Iowa State, TCU. TCU's had a good, strong finish to the season. After that, we get to, that's how many? 2, 4, 6. I mean, after that, you got West Virginia, UCF, Cincinnati, BYU, all 9-9, all with at least 10 losses. 2 of them have 13 and 14 losses. Boy. I mean, I could easily not put in West Virginia, UCF, Cincinnati, or BYU at all and be okay with that. See what's going on here score-wise. Anything good? Top 25 teams. Louisville has beaten SMU, which will probably take SMU out of this tournament. They would have had it. They were sort of on the bubble. Where'd Lenardi have them? I think he had them out. Well, he had them the last 4 in. I think this loss may have them on the outside looking in, quite frankly. And Iowa State is just throttling Arizona State. Bobby Hurley gets fired, and this team just absolutely doesn't show up. 91-42. That's an embarrassment. You got 8. I think 9. I think it's 9 myself. I think Iowa gets in. I'm guessing you have Iowa out. I've got Iowa in. And they might get Lenardi might be right. Indiana might get in. There will be a couple of these bubble teams that's going to get in because they have a strong run through their conference tournament. Indiana would be wise not to lose tonight. They lose tonight, they got to be done. Hello, AC. How are you? The Big East this year too, John, and guys and girls. Only 3 bids this year because the middle of this conference, I mean, really went towards the bottom. The teams that have been really good or at least, tournament worthy of consideration in other years really kind of fell flat this year. Villanova had a good Villanova's getting in. I'm sorry. Seton Hall was 10-10, 2011 overall. To me, some of these other teams we're talking about in the Big 12 or the Big 10, we get down to Indiana and we get down to Texas, and we get down to some of the other teams we've talked about here in the Big 12, the BYU's, the West Virginia. Seton Hall should be still in the conversation, and they really are not. Creighton has not had a good season. They're usually a fairly strong. Marquette really fell off the side of the building here this year. Shaka Smart's team really struggling at Marquette. Providence has been bad for a couple of years. Xavier, who's been strong, struggled through this year. Georgetown has been really bad for a couple of years. But, where St. John's and UConn and Villanova have propped up the top of this league, so it's still they're still really strong contenders. Listen, I can't put a bet in on DraftKings on St. John's, but I would have put a future bet in on St. John's to win the whole thing. But you can't bet on New York teams because that's, it's not legal here. But we don't look at them as, one of the top conferences anymore because the middle of the conference has really fallen to the bottom, fallen apart, where this team was really six deep. St. John's, UConn, Villanova, Seton Hall, Creighton, Marquette, Butler, Providence, Xavier. These teams were all strong contenders. We look at the last decade or so, more often than not, those teams, again, the last couple of years, Providence hasn't been, let's say. But most of these teams are in consideration more often than not the last 10 or 15 years. And this conference had made a comeback once UConn rejoined it. But this year, very top heavy, very good teams at the top of this conference, but not going to get very deep. Listen, Nova's a good one for a Cinderella. I like Miami just because I think it'd be a great story. I think Santa Clara is a team to watch out for. I think McNeese State, who got in today, is a team to watch out for. They won a game in this tournament last year with Will Wade as a coach. I like Gonzaga a little bit. Is Villanova even ranked, John? I don't even know if they're ranked. I don't think they are. No, they're not even ranked. Surprise. That's a good pick. Kevin Willard's done a really good job getting that program back on track after some tough years since Jay Wright stepped away. Done a good job. Good to see AC. Always good to see AC. Happy birthday to Chris F. Grave again. Big poker tomorrow, Turning Stone. Cool. Good luck with that. Is that a one-day tournament tomorrow? AC, good luck. They got a sports book. They don't have a sports book at Turning Stone, right? Or do they? Maybe now they do. They have one here at Rivers. I could have gone and bet St. John's at Rivers, I believe, just not on DraftKings. Can't have online betting here in New York. It's dangerous. But I like Villanova as a sleeper. Some teams to win a game in the first round to watch out for. I mentioned McNeese. High Point I'd watch out for. Siena's got a track record. They've got 4 tournament wins. They do have a sports day or sports book now. They didn't used to, I know, years ago. Multiple day tournament for AC. It's going to get cold again up here, AC. Some football news, too, by the way. Well, sports news in general. Remember, we talked about it last week that Friday they were going to have this summit, right? This Future of College Sports Summit that the president had put together with some of the. I don't understand. I mean, I know they had all the big conference presidents there, some bunch of ADs, some coaches. Nick Saban's there, Urban Meyer's there. No representation from the players, though. The president says he's going to, have an all-encompassing executive order that he'll put out. Which, again, I don't think we need I don't think we need Washington, D.C. getting involved in our sports. I just really don't. This isn't about whether you agree or disagree with, whatever side of the aisle. This is about sports, and I don't think I need Congress, which is what Saban and Urban Meyer are all calling for, is Congress to take action. I don't think we need that. I don't think we need presidential executive orders. We should be able to figure this out and police it ourselves in the NCAA, not ourselves. If I'm the NCAA, the SEC says, well, we're just going to go off and do our own thing. You guys are letting your sport turn into the wild, wild west, and it's going to become something, your sports, not your sport. We think about football, basketball to a lesser degree. You guys need to rein this in, man. Lawsuits. We spent all time in, guys are suing. We used to have guys suing to get out of the league so they go to the NFL or to the NBA, right? Because they had rules that you couldn't enter unless, your graduating class, you had either, for a while it was you had to be there for 4 years. And then we had a hardship rule back that came into play in the old ABA days in the NBA. To NFL, you had to be there for your graduating class left in 4 years. You could be drafted. That ended, I don't know, in maybe the 90s, early 2000s, maybe. But then it started getting to be, you could be one and done in basketball. You could be two and done in football. And guys were suing so that they could get into the league to make money. Now that they're making money in college, you're suing to stay forever. We just saw Aguiar lose a lawsuit at Tennessee. We saw Trinidad Chambliss lose, then win. Now the NCAA is suing to keep him from playing in college next year at Ole Miss. We spend more time with court cases than we do talking about freaking the product on the field. Annoying. No, but why do these conferences, why do these league presidents and ADs, they want Congress to decide what should be done? And now, the president said, I'll just, wave my hand and you're going to follow these rules. I don't think that's the way to go either. Not knowing what he might or might not be in favor of. But I don't think we need kids staying in school for 6 or 7 years either. The COVID exemptions, all these things have run their course. You guys let the genie out of the bottle. You can't put it back in. So all you got to do now is make some realistic rules. You said, guy, you can't go back to 2020 or 2019, before NIL and that decision came down. And the whole thing has been bastardized beyond belief. Remember, this whole thing, NIL, was about name, image, and likeness. And it really was over. The original lawsuit was Ed O'Bannon, and I think somebody else got brought into the lawsuit eventually, but the lawsuit went on for 20 years. More than that. They used, EA Sports, I think, used his likeness, his name and his image in a video game, and he thought he should be able to profit from it. That's far from getting paid to play, which is where we ended up from that. We ended up with a guy suing over his image, name, and likeness being used in a video game to being paid to play. Millions, in some cases, tens of millions of dollars. I understand the NIL thing. I remember the arguments I had when I did the show with the Mad New Yorker. NIL, I didn't understand what NIL was, I was told. It was all about marketing. And I said to him then, it's pay for play. And at some point, they're just going to call it that. Well, it took 6 years, but it happened. Sometimes I'm right. Every once in a while, I'm like, the sun shines on every dog's ass at some point, right? And blind squirrel finds an acorn and all the other corny nonsense. Keith is right every, whatever. every once every solar eclipse. When I'm wrong, I admit it. But I'll also tell you when I'm right. And I said this from the very beginning. This was never going to be about name, image, and likeness. It was going to turn into pay for play, and it was pay for play from the freaking beginning. Not Ed O'Bannon. Ed O'Bannon had a legitimate freaking lawsuit. You used my name, you should pay me. Everybody forgets that. Right? All these guys now, they ought to be thanking Ed O'Bannon. Like all the Major League Baseball players. By the way, did you see this floor they're playing on at the Big 12? All glass. It's funky because it changes, the floor lights up. And can't we just play basketball? BYU's leading West Virginia by 34-25. So anyway. Sorry, I got off on that tangent. Anyway, these players right now who are making all this money in college sports should be thanking Ed O'Bannon. Like Major League Baseball players should be thanking Curt Flood. And they go, who's Curt Flood? I really wanted to find the, that isn't our topic today. I was trying to find the baseball. We'll get into Mark DeRosa on Friday morning with Jack and myself. And I'm sure I'll be talking about it on Sunday with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. So we'll talk about it Friday afternoon, the MLB update as well. I won't get into it on this show, but what else is going on? Let me see what's going on in the world of sports. Oregon State did hire a coach, tapping Michigan assistant Justin Joyner, to be their new head coach as they head into the reborn Big 12 next year, or Pac-12 next year. Utah Valley State, speaking of lawsuits, they had to sue to be able to compete in the WAC tournament. They're the top seeded team there, but they're leaving, and they were having an argument over the rights they need to pay to leave the conference, and they weren't going to let them play in the conference. So they had to go sue for an injunction to be able to play in the conference tournament, and they ended up paying a $1 million escrow payment as part of their departing. I think they're going, where are they going to next year? I think they might be going to the Mountain West. Lawsuits more than anything else in college basketball today. Caleb Foster, I talked about Duke's injury issues. Their point guard, Caleb Foster, is out for the foreseeable future with a fractured right foot. This would be a huge loss. Now, Boozer is the guy that carries this team, but you got to have, especially once you get into tournament play, whether it's a conference tournament and especially the NCAA tournament, you need good guard play. And them missing Caleb Foster, if he's going to be out for the entire postseason, this is going to be a problem. And foreseeable is all in quotation marks. I think this kid might be done for the season, which would really hurt John Shire's team a lot, in my mind. I mean, that's big news that nobody's really talking too much about. We have 5 days. Who's in? Let's look at this. Is this my one that goes? This is the one I like. That's not the one I like. I like this other. Can Miami get to the tournament unbeaten? Who else has come close recently? 2004. I was wrong. I said 2003. St. Joe's did get beat in their conference tournament. They lost to Miami. I'm sorry. I want to say they lost to Xavier by like 20 points in the A10 tournament going in. 2015 and 2021, 2015 Kentucky, 2021 Gonzaga both reached the tournament undefeated. Kentucky lost, if you remember, in the final to UConn, if I'm not mistaken, that year. And Gonzaga lost to Baylor in the championship game as well. Wichita State, as I said, 31-0, they were getting into the tournament, playing out of the Missouri Valley. They got a number 1 seed. Miami's looking at a 10 or 11 seed. I really feel I get a 9. But these teams did not fare very well going through the tournament. They didn't win championships. Hello, Donna. Happy birthday. Speaking of happy birthdays, we got back-to-back. Are you guys out celebrating your birthdays together? Chris F. Graves here with us. Happy birthday, Chris. Reasonable to believe Notre Dame football will be all but a brand new team. But next year, their quarterback will be back. C.J. Carr definitely will be back. But there'll be a lot of other faces for sure. And Donna Richard Gibson, it's her birthday as well. I hope your husband treated you to a nice dinner or something tonight before you popped in to see us, Donna. Happy birthday to you and to Chris as well. Maybe you guys are out together. I don't know. Chris, take you and your husband out for a nice Toronto meal or something? You're lost in college ball, but I'll stay on for a bit. We're only going to be on for another 10 minutes or so anyway, Donna. But we always appreciate you stopping in and saying hi. And always, guys, when you come in, do me a favor, hit the like button. Whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, hit the like button. And I've started now at the end of shows StreamYard will generate some clips. So we got 30 or 45-second clips. It'll pick out different things that I've talked about. And some of them are good. Some of them are not so good. But do me a favor and like those, share those, anything. You don't want to share a 2-hour, hour and a half, hour show or whatever on your page. I don't blame you. But if you can do me a favor, go to YouTube especially, or Facebook, where Donna is right now, and share the 30-second clips. Find one you like, you either agree with or you don't agree with. Put a comment to it. Like it. Ring the bell, as they say on YouTube. Like it on Facebook or love it. And share it. And we're going to drive this audience through the roof. So, anyway, just a little help. Hope you guys have had a great birthday, Chris and Donna. I'm not celebrating birthdays anymore. I stopped at 65. Seems like more than enough, doesn't it? We've had some great weather up here in the Northeast, too. 70 degrees again today, 75 or 6 yesterday. It's all coming to an end. It's going to be in the 30s the next couple of days. Some snow showers. So it's our fool spring. There's our boy, Bo. How are you, Bo? Getting really good at generating the clips when I can ask StreamYard to do it for me, Bo. Ring the bell. Hit the button. Where's Bo at today? Check out Bo's stuff, too, by the way. And, Bo, congratulations on your radio gig. I think we congratulated you last week on the show. If we didn't, congratulations. Bo also does some great stuff here on the McGrath Podcast Network. Every morning you can check him out. And feel free to prompt me with something, Bo, and I'll be happy to share it to my page. I'm not good about going and doing it because, again, I got a 66-year-old brain that doesn't want to function correctly some days. It does help. How are you, buddy? Bo's up there in Gonzaga country. We're talking a little bit about Gonzaga on the professional sports show today. And listen, I really like this team's chances in this tournament. It's all going to be, as it always is, depending on matchups. What's interesting is, Mark Mark Few has put together some really good teams through the last, 10 or 15 years. This team's been to the tournament 27 consecutive years. And this isn't a mid-major anymore. They may play in a mid-major. They're going to the new Pac-12 next year, but this is not a mid-major program. This is a major program and has been for quite some time. This has been the year where they play better defense and they have some trouble at times scoring points. So we'll see whether this dynamic helps or hurts them. Again, they've lost in a national championship final 2 times in the last 10 years or so. And they've made it to the Final Four another year, I think one other year as well. So it might be time for them to finally get over the top, but it would take a great run because there's some really good teams, as we talked about, at the top. And there's some good teams that are going to be lurking from, the middle of this pack come March Madness here in a week's time. Next week, this time, we'll be in day 2 of the first 4 games. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll see who's in those games. Good chance Siena, as I talked about, would be one of those teams playing in the first 4. We'll find out. Hofstra, we talked about tonight, another good candidate for the first 4. What else was I talking about? I guess that's all I had for tonight, actually. We talked about everything in college basketball pretty much. I know I'm a broken record on this whole freaking Miami thing. They need to get in. They need to win a tournament. I really want to see them go in undefeated. It'd be a great story. The NCAA is about great stories, the NCAA basketball tournament. And every year we seem to get one. This court in the Big 12 is really freaking me out. The court lights up. I don't think that's the TV. I think it's the court. They're playing on a new glass court. And I saw last night some highlights that were really freaky. The players say it's a little slick, but they like it. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody slip in this game. I'm watching the BYU West Virginia game. It's 39-33 right now. The offense evaporates at times. Talk about Gonzaga, I believe, which would I think has them as an Elite 8 exit. It's possible. Again, matchups are everything here, right? And the matchups you think you're going to get later, you don't get because of upsets that first weekend. Usually things start to, most years, right? Things are going to normalize. You have to get past the first couple of days, maybe the first weekend. You get into the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, then the cream usually rises to the top. And the teams that are better will more often than not win. You get your upsets in the first 2 rounds. But there are years like, I don't know, I can't remember what year it was. 2011, we had George Mason, VCU, Butler, all in the Final Four. Jim Larragar did a great job with that George Mason team, did a great job at Miami when he went there, got them to a national Final Four a few years back before he walked away last year, in the middle of last year. He just couldn't deal with the NIL stuff anymore. A lot of these older coaches, this just isn't worth the hassle for them anymore. But I don't know. We got some good. We're going to have a lot of good basketball this weekend when we get, because these tournaments. Why, do I think we need these conference tournaments? I'd rather see I've talked about this before. I'd rather see the regular season champions get in, and I'd love to see some kind of hybrid. There's really no way to do it. I understand, because you could play games with teams getting bids. I'd like to see the regular season champ get in, and then maybe the postseason champion gets in as well. But there's no way to do that, because if you're the regular season champion, you're probably going to let some other team win so that your league and your program can bring some more money in by getting 2 teams in instead of 1. So again, I don't have the perfect remedy here, But I think we need to make the regular season championship more important, especially in these mid-major conferences, because the Miamis and the St. Louis's of the world shouldn't be worrying about getting a tournament bid when we got 68 teams to get in if they were to lose in their conference tournament. Oh, geez, sorry about that. So good stuff anyway. So a lot of these, there are number one seeds on the line in these tournaments. They do still mean something. I mean, think about it. If we didn't have a regular season tournament or a postseason tournament, the regular season champions would already be in. I suppose we could expand the tournament if you wanted to do that. If we still had this enormous desire. Remember, there's not 130 teams in here like there is in football. There's 280 or something like that. But if you didn't play postseason tournaments, you could have got the NCAA tournament started early. Same way in football. A lot of talk in football, as we've talked about, as they expand this tournament, about how to get it closer to New Year's Day. And it's really not going to be that hard, especially if my Army Navy is seriously considering, at least Army is, I still haven't heard from Navy, about moving their game to Thanksgiving weekend, possibly Black Friday, still getting a 3-hour exclusive, 4-hour exclusive window. So they're the only game being played at that time. That frees up. That game's usually played now the week after the conference championship games, which, by the way, moving that game would remove the possibility of a very awkward situation where, Army and Navy may have, or Army or Navy may have already played and won their conference and then lose the Army Navy game, let's say. That would be removed because they'd be playing before the American Conference championship game. Then you can move week 1 to week 0. There's no reason, if we're going to play games in week 0 anyway, there's always 1 or 2 decent games, or one marquee game usually, and a decent game other than that. Move everything to week 0. Make that week 1. So now you've moved everything up 2 weeks. You could theoretically, maybe you won't get done on New Year's Day, but you get done on the 8th or ish. They're going way too far into January and competing way too much with the NFL playoffs and whatnot. Nobody wants that. But we'll see how that goes. All right, guys, we've been a little disjointed tonight, but we're going to wrap her up. I appreciate everybody pulling in. Donna and Chris, again, happy birthday to you guys. AC, John, Bo. Who else has been out here? Paul, Ken, all you guys who have been commenting on the show. Get out. Who's been watching out here and not commenting? I always like to see who's out here. Bo's out there. He's already commented. Robert Butler, Ginger, how are you? I guess that's it. Always like to call some people out. Don't be afraid to comment, guys. If you don't know what you're talking about, you'll be just like me. But well, thank you, my friend. We'll be back on Friday morning with Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. I'll have the MLB update on at 3 o'clock on Friday. And, of course, Sunday Stream of Consciousness coming up. 2 more shows to go tonight. Bo, you're busy. It's early for you, though. Plus, you're a lot younger than me, man. I get done with these shows at 8:30 on a Wednesday night, sometimes at 9 if I go on with Robert here and there. And then I go try to watch I watch Jeopardy and whatever sports is on. Now I got conference tournaments to watch until 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleeping on my recliner for about 4 hours before I go to bed. But there's no work in the morning. So, all right, guys, we're going to see you later. Keith Engle for College, TGI Sports College, Sports Huddle. You guys have a great Wednesday night. Hope your team does well in your conference tournament. Have a great night. Bye-bye.